Welcome, mamas. I'm Erin Wilson. I'm a pregnancy and postpartum corrective exercise specialist. I've been in the field of physiology for over 15 years, and I have 2 kids on my own, so I have been pregnant twice. I'd like to talk to you today. Well, first, I'd like to thank you for being here, for clicking on a video that is going to support you in your postpartum journey. Maybe you're getting this before you're even postpartum. Maybe you're pregnant right now, and that's awesome too. Go you. These are techniques and tips that will definitely help you stay safe, potentially help you decrease stress, anxiety, overwhelm, maybe get some better sleep, which us parents all know is very important. So decrease stress, better sleep, and I think maybe the most important thing is using our breath to prevent injury and to promote healing. So I am a huge advocate for women's health and the fact that we are just not educated about how to support ourselves after we have these babies and during a time where we're very vulnerable for injury. So what I want to do is start to change that, give you some tools, some simple things that you can do to protect yourself, to keep yourself healthy, and to move towards, just rebuilding that strength that you need to be a mom. I mean, being a parent, being a mom is extremely strenuous. You're carrying those car seats, you're bending, you're lifting, you're rounding forward. Your core's already gone through this intense trauma for several months, so you've lost a lot of strength in that core. You got a tight back, you got tight shoulders, you might be clenching in the jaw. I mean, there's all sorts of things that we have to A, be aware of, and B, work towards healing our bodies in a slow and steady way. One of the main things I want to get across today is if you're joining me in your postpartum, please know that your pelvic floor, your core, your back cannot exercise the way you did pre-baby. Even if you were exercising throughout your entire pregnancy, please don't jump right back into the same things you were doing. And I know that sounds, I know it sounds like, duh, of course, but so many women do, and so many women get injured, and myself included. So this is kind of what led me to this field, is that I experienced injuries. Even though I was very strong through both pregnancies, it was in that postpartum period where I did not retrain my breath first, and therefore I just really left myself open and vulnerable for these types of tissue injuries, connective tissue injuries. Your pelvic floor and your core can't handle the same weight and the same movement that it did before. It takes time. You heard me. You don't have to have your body back immediately. Enjoy that time with your baby, being a mom, and do not rush back to exercise. So it takes time, and it takes, a inside out approach. So retraining our body using the breath. All right, so I'm going to stop talking about all this, and I'm just going to get into it for you because I know how busy you are. So we want to start with a correct breathing pattern. When you are pregnant and having this baby in the front here, what happens to your diaphragm, which is the muscle, our breathing muscle, that's directly underneath the ribs. It's connected to the ribs, connects down into the back and into the psoas. So this diaphragm muscle will often get pushed up. So it moves up higher in our body to create that space for our baby. What this does to many women, and if you experience like shortness of breath, especially towards the end of your pregnancy, well, what was happening was that diaphragm was moving up and you were breathing more shallow breathing patterns. So using your neck, your shoulders, your chest, more than the diaphragm on inhalation. Here comes my dog to say hi. Sorry. So what happens is that our diaphragm moves up and then our ribs expand out. So they get larger to give us space to hold the baby. But that rib cage positioning doesn't go down automatically after we have the baby. The diaphragm doesn't necessarily go down automatically. And so many people will get stuck in this reverse breathing pattern. Many women, and this can happen to men too, even if they don't carry a child. It can happen if you're stressed, go through injury, sit a lot for your job. So what happens is when you inhale, you might find that you're more often than not inhaling up, sucking in on the inhale, sucking in a lot. And I'm a little against all these really tight compression type of things that women wear, belly bands, unless your doctor is recommending it for a specific reason. You know, that tight compression is going to keep us from having a really good breathing pattern and naturally reconnecting to our breath. So we will get stuck in this inhalation where the diaphragm keeps wanting to go up, 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 and we're breathing up, we're breathing, sucking in, and that's paradoxical breathing. We want to inhale, expand out. Yes, your belly can be relaxed on that inhale so that the diaphragm can move down. This will stimulate our parasympathetic nervous system because your vagus nerve runs through a hole in the diaphragm, and so you're stimulating that vagus nerve, which activates parasympathetic. So this will keep you a little bit more relaxed throughout the day. Versus if you're shallow breathing in a reverse pattern, you're going to stimulate the sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or flight, our stress. And trust me, if you're a new mama, you're already going through a lot of stress, anxiety, on top of sleepless nights. So as maybe you're holding your baby, feeding your baby, I like to have my clients start to really work on just breathing at first for a really long time. Stay there. Retrain that breathing pattern so it's natural, 360 degrees. So what I use sometimes is for if you're first starting out, take a band that's not stretchy, wrap it around your back and bring it in front. When you inhale, you should start to feel the rib cage open, kind of out and down almost. It opens up laterally and your belly expands out slightly. Your low back gets a nice stretch, mid back gets a nice stretch where the ribs are back here. So back body stretches. And then finally, let's talk about your pelvic floor. So when you inhale, your pelvic floor should stretch just slightly. So a lot of women, after they have a baby, there's trauma if they've gone vaginally, and there's also trauma down there if you have a cesarean. There's trauma down in the pelvic floor. Some women tend to have more of a tight pelvic floor from that trauma, and maybe from incorrect breathing patterns, incorrect breathing and bracing patterns, or just really, stressed out. Maybe they had a traumatic birth. I was one of those. So I had a tight pelvic floor. And so Kegels didn't help me because that was just making it tighter and tighter. So it was tight and weak. Some people just have a really, really weak pelvic floor. So if you are thinking you might fall into some of these pelvic floor issues, it's worth seeing a pelvic floor physical therapist for them to tell you, are you tight or are you weak? And that's a really good thing to know to protect yourself from things like prolapse or more ab separation, those types of issues, which can be really hard to recover from. So I'm all about trying to get the message out there for prevention and retraining our breath and giving ourselves more grace before we enter back into exercise. So I do want you to really work on that inhalation, 360 degrees, letting the pelvic floor stretch, and then the exhale starts to become almost a natural conditioning of the abdominal. So when we exhale, fully exhale, get to the very end of your breath, and we're breathing from the nose primarily. When you exhale, you'll start to retrain the abdominal. So the ribs will come down, the core will start to come in, the pelvic floor will come up. That is the natural pattern. Inhale, expand, exhale, draw back in. So start there. I'm going to have more videos on postpartum breathing exercises and tips, but this is where I want you to start. Make sure you have clearance with your doctor, all of those things. But breathing is one of the first things you can look at. one of the first things you can do, and you can retrain that daily habitual breathing pattern that many women get stuck in from their diaphragm getting shoved up, their ribs getting shoved out. So you're stuck here. We want to slow that breathing down, get that expansion on inhalation, and get that drawing in on exhalation. Support your body, be good to yourself, lots of water, mama. And listen, you're doing a great job. You're here, you're trying to support your body. That's awesome. If you need any help, if you are looking for like a wellness coach, I do a lot of coaching one-on-one, so I'm here for you in that capacity. And if you want to know more about breathing, I offer a Better Breathing Basics course, which is awesome for moms to do because it's self-paced. So you just have all these videos you go through. It's about 4 hours of training, but I know moms, we're often sitting down a lot as we're feeding our newborn babies, and there's a lot of sitting. So maybe use your sitting time for breath work and learning more information about the breath so you can support yourself better. So I'll link it below for that course information, and I'll give you a link for my website if you want to do one-on-one coaching. But I hope this was helpful. Comments below. I'm here to answer questions and help you in any way. Bye, mamas.